Hi, and welcome to this edition of Fresh Hope for Mental Health. Our mission here at Fresh Hope for Mental Health is to empower you to live well in spite of your mental health challenge by sharing insights through interviews, practical tools for living well, encouragement, and courage for overcoming all from a Christian perspective. And now, here's your host, Pastor Brad Hafes.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to Fresh Hope for Mental Health. I'm Brad Hafes, your host. Our purpose here on Fresh Hope for Mental Health is to empower you to live a faith-filled, rich, and full life in spite of having a mental health diagnosis. Well, today I'm looking forward to this interview. This gentleman's name is Chris Krusen, and I'm going to let him tell you what his complete first name is, but I'm going to call him Chris. He wrote and directed and performed in a movie called Let Me Have My Son. And I want to welcome you here today. We're really glad to have you with us, Chris.
Oh, thank you very much, Pastor Brad.
Yeah. Well, so tell me, how did you come to do this? Have you done this before? What brought you to this point?
Well, yes, my vocation is that of filmmaking. I studied filmmaking in college and worked in New York City after I graduated, and that's been my work for decades.
Wow.
The second part of it all, though, is that my son, Daniel, developed schizophrenia around the age of 16, 17, wasn't sure what was happening with him, but it became very, very serious, and he had to be institutionalized. When he turned 18, he was civilly committed to the state mental hospital in Virginia, where we were living at the time. But for many years, I never thought of making a film about that. As I said, that my career was filmmaking, so I made many kinds of films in the faith arena primarily. But I would say about 10 years ago, I had this idea for how to tell my son's story in a dramatic kind of film that wouldn't necessarily stay true to all the facts as they happen, but take flights of fancy and capture what it would be like or what it is like for someone to have mental illness and how the family suffers. It developed from there into a screenplay, and then we made the movie, feature-length film.
Yeah.
And it was released about a month ago.
Yes, and I've watched the trailer. I'm looking forward to watching the film. It looks extremely powerful, and I love some of the things you talk about in the one trailer that I saw where his life matters, and you're walking with him, I believe. I don't know if that's really your son. It seems like it was. Maybe there was an actor in the movie, but this was a trailer about you talking about your son.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's right up front, folks, I'm going to tell you, I think this is a movie you ought to watch. And I have just a real good sense about it and feeling about it. And you can find it by going to Chris's website for it, right?
Correct.
LetMeHaveMySon.com. Do I have that correct?
That's correct. That's right. It's the title of the movie.com.
Yeah. So LetMeHaveMySon.com, and you can purchase a ticket and watch it there. It's not in theaters. That's where it's at, and that's how you would find the movie. Chris, tell me, how have people responded to it? What's going on with the film? I see that it possibly won an award or two.
Yes, it's won. It's won several awards at European film festivals. It's won awards for Best Director, Best Picture, and those are secular festivals, by the way, which is interesting. We've also won the Best Actor award at the ICVM Crown Awards, which is a Christian film festival. So that was that was very gratifying.
Yes.
Yes, we've been winning awards at different festivals, and yes.
Well, tell me, how does your son feel about all of this?
Oh well, he's very excited about it, and the amazing part of this is that though he has been institutionalized these last 12 years,
Mm-hmm.
he has done so much better of late, meaning the last several years, that he is now on the verge of being discharged from the state mental hospital in
Oh,
Minnesota.
wow.
Yes, to
Wow,
go live in a
fantastic.
group home, and he's very much aware of the movie, and has been aware of the movie. The movie has taken a while to produce; it wasn't done in a month. Um,
Right. Yeah.
so yeah, and he's prayed with me on the phone many times as we've talked about the movie, and
Oh, wow.
he's very excited about it. And his prayer is often, Lord, use this movie to reach people for Jesus. That's his prayer.
Oh, wow. How wonderful. Yeah. Well, it certainly, felt very hope filled, and even just in the trailers. And so, if you're listening today, I do want to encourage you to check it out because films like this don't come around very often for those of us who have mental health diagnosis from a faith perspective and from the encouragement that we have and the strength we have in our faith. And
Yeah.
tell me about your son's journey just a little bit. Tell me, how did it start to the schizophrenia? How did it manifest when he was 16 or 17?
Sure. Well, interestingly, we do cover that in the film, so I'd encourage people to watch the
Sure.
movie to
Yeah.
find out more about that. But yes, it well, the truth is that his mother suffered from mental illness, and
Uh,
when he began showing some of the same signs of paranoia, hallucinations, frankly, I thought he was making fun of his mom, and I got upset with him. I got very upset
oh,
with him about that. But it turned out to not be the case, that he was actually having these delusions. And um, there also could have been a triggering effect when he experimented with drugs.
yes.
I'm sorry to say, but you asked
Yeah.
the question.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, when he was 15 years old, 14, 15, that could have triggered a genetic predisposition to
Yes.
mental illness. It's hard to speak about it in black and white, like this is exactly what caused it and so
Yes,
forth.
of course. Sure.
But when we saw him acting out and being irrational, and then sadly becoming violent at times, unpredictably so, that's where that's where things became so difficult, and where he ended up being committed. Um,
Mm-hmm.
if he were like Jimmy Stewart in that movie Harvey, just talking to a 6 foot tall rabbit that no one else could see,
Yeah.
that would have been one thing, right?
Right.
But yes, but I'm sure you're aware, and that
Yes.
when somebody gets physically inappropriate or even violent,
Yeah.
that's a game changer. And
Right.
but but that's where he's shown so much improvement, I must say,
Mm.
and why we're at the point now that he's about to be discharged, because those incidents have just disappeared. There's been nothing like that for years, and
Oh,
he's been
wow.
doing much better.
Yeah. How old is he today?
He's 40 years old.
Wow. Okay. I have a
Yeah.
son who's 40. Yeah. So we're about the same age, I suspect. Well, you
Yeah.
could be older than me, I guess, but
Yeah. Well, yeah, I had, I'm 70, so I was
oh, okay.
30 when Daniel was born.
Okay, you're just a little bit older, but yeah, yeah. I'm sure this has been quite a journey for you of times where you were hopeful, and other times where you just felt frustrated and not sure, huh?
Yes, it was. There were very, very dark, despairing times and moments through it all.
Sure.
Moments is really not the right word, to be honest,
Yeah.
because the months of
Seasons. Yeah.
darkness. Yes.
Yeah.
But I must say that believing friends, the Bible itself, just the comfort of the scriptures, and my
Mm,
faith,
yes.
uh, you know, faith being tested, um, made all the difference. I was not always. I felt like I didn't always have my head above water, to be quite honest. But
Sure.
God in His mercy preserved me. God in His mercy has preserved my family. God in His mercy has brought Daniel to the point where he is today. And, so we have hope. We
Yeah.
have hope. Hope
Yeah.
does not disappoint us, right? The Bible
Exactly.
says.
Exactly. My wife and I finished a book a couple of years ago or a year ago, whatever it is, and it's for loved ones that love somebody. And
Uh,
I always love the subtitle of it because the title of the book is Holding to Hope, and then the subtitle is Staying Sane While Loving Someone with a Mental Illness. And I just really
uh,
see so often that and in our Fresh Hope groups, we have both those with the diagnosis and their loved ones in the same
yes.
group for the
Yes.
reason
Yeah.
of learning from one another.
Oh,
But
yes.
so often anxiety and depression can so
Yeah.
easily take over for,
Yeah.
especially a parent of a young
Yeah.
adult or an adult child. And it makes it so difficult. So I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah. And could I just echo what you're saying about having somebody with a diagnosis being part of the discussion? That is so beautiful and so valuable.
Yeah.
And one of the great through lines of the movie, by far, is that the humanity of those who suffer from a mental disorder. We must not overlook that, minimize that, forget that, and be open to receiving from
Mm,
those who are mentally ill. I like to say, I like to say that the gift have given my son is that I've stuck there with him and not given up. But the gift he has given me is one of empathy, one of greater mercy,
mm,
greater faithfulness, as well as faith,
wow.
and just understanding that God has made all of us.
Yes.
And a disability or a weakness of some sort or another is not a disqualifier to being human.
Yeah. And nor does it define you completely.
That's right.
One of the things I discovered is I relapsed about 7 years into my recovery based upon getting some medicine goofed up. It wasn't that I stopped taking it, I just got it goofed up and then I didn't do it right and ended up
Uh,
relapsing. And when I did that, I said, oh, I got to go to a support group. And the groups I went to, my wife would go off one direction and then I'd be left with people who were just doing nothing but venting. And it actually made me worse. And I knew that I couldn't keep going. But I also knew when my doctor said, why don't you start what you want to go to? And I knew then that I wanted my wife in the same group because there were things she could learn from other people that had a mental health diagnosis, but there were things I could learn from other loved ones who loved
yes.
somebody. And
Yeah.
it's been amazing to watch how those who are living well in spite of their mental health
Mhm.
diagnosis really perk up when they can help somebody. It's
Absolutely.
like we see the redemption of God's pain in our lives, and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. I
Yeah.
can comfort others with the same comfort given me, and people
Yes.
actually
Yeah.
get excited about it.
Yes. No, that's absolutely right. And frankly, the movie "Let Me Have My Son" celebrates just that. I, um, well, again, going back to what I said earlier, that the empathy that's developed over the years is such that I, uh, I remember once visiting my son, and I said, I feel closer to Jesus here in the mental hospital.
Yes.
I feel closer to Jesus here with my son and his condition
Yes.
than I might elsewhere. Where,
Mm.
let's just say, everybody has their act together and they're prosperous and
Yeah,
doing well and no problems in life. And the movie
exactly.
does celebrate the beauty that we all have as individuals, and the unique perspectives even that those who have a mental illness can give.
Yes.
I kind of celebrate it in the movie, frankly.
Yeah.
And you see an arc in the father, a story arc in the father character in the movie, where he ends up ultimately kind of fitting in with
Yeah.
all the other patients.
Yeah.
That's where he finds his peace in his
Yeah.
center.
Yeah. I always tell people, well, you may not have technically a mental illness, but everybody has emotional illness. Everybody. And
Yeah.
I have the spiritual gift of triggering people. So if you want to know what your emotional issues are, I can come and live with you for 12 hours and you'll you'll figure out what they are.
You'll give me a diagnosis. That'll
Yeah,
be good.
well, and
Yeah.
most people, you know, I could pick up immediately from your clips that you didn't see your son as less than any other human. And
Oh,
so often people with disabilities are seen as less than, and sometimes disabilities make us more than, you know?
yes, it's true. I, I mean, I'm not saying I know this, but I kind of feel this, that oftentimes people who are suffering, I'll just say schizophrenia, perhaps, because I kind of know that one pretty
Sure,
well,
sure.
but other mental health disorders too. I think sometimes they have a deeper insight into things than quote unquote normal people do. Um,
Yeah.
and and they can be more in touch with their feelings. They can be more sensitive
Mm,
to those around them. My son, who's been diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, he picks up on people immediately,
uh,
and he senses when someone is perhaps in need. He senses when someone is being genuine or
hmm.
someone is being false.
Mm-hmm.
He's very discerning, and
Yeah,
I
interesting.
sometimes ask myself if that, in addition to just maybe his natural gifting or the way God made him, if there's not something there too that.
Well,
Um,
they say there's a book written by a psychiatrist called A First Rate Madness, and it's about issues or about world leaders that were extremely gifted to lead in the time that they led, who suffered from uh, depression or
mm, mm,
anxiety or bipolar disorder or numerous
mm,
different mental health situations. And he
mm,
said part of what causes people to look beyond the regular solutions for issues is because they've had to work around certain things in their
mm,
lives. And I
mm,
found it very
mm.
compelling.
Yes, yeah,
It made me say, okay, there are some things that because I have bipolar disorder and have lived through being sick from it,
yeah.
I consider myself in remission, if you will. I still have it, but I'm not sick from it. Um, but my brain still works a little differently and looks at things
Mm,
differently
mm,
than
mm,
maybe had I never had it, you know?
mm. I wonder if one of those leaders would have been Abraham Lincoln, who
Yes. Yeah.
had
It's,
depression, I
yep.
think,
Well, yes, depression, or he had bipolar type
or
2.
bipolar.
Yeah, he had the type 2 where it was more depressive than anything. But yes, he's one of them. And he notes in his book why some leaders didn't do as well because they didn't have a mental health issue. It's really
Yeah.
interesting. And he went through, of course, why Hitler was not mentally ill but evil. And this
Uh,
is a secular psychiatrist, so it was
mm,
very
mm,
interesting. But
mm,
oh, I find this fascinating. I can't wait to watch this movie. And again, those of you who are listening, I would write it down right now, and as soon as you can, I would go and take a watch this movie. LetMeHaveMySon.com. And
Yeah.
I just think that it will be a blessing to those who watch it. And I'm going to encourage our facilitators to let the folks in their groups know. Now, you were telling me before we started recording that this is in Spanish also. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's been dubbed into Spanish. It's just getting finished into Portuguese, the dub, I mean, and it's subtitled into numerous other languages, including French,
Wonderful.
Romanian,
Oh,
Dutch,
wow. Wow.
German. So,
Yes. Do you have Chinese or Japanese by any chance?
well, there's a little bit of Japanese spoken in the movie.
Oh, is there? Yeah.
Yes, you have to watch the movie to understand, as well as Somali. Um,
Wonderful.
it's yes, and my heart as a filmmaker is kind of international anyway,
Sure.
and so I speak several languages myself, but my heart is, ever since I've been a Christian, has been in overseas
Yeah.
ministry and bringing
Fabulous.
the good news across the
Yeah.
the world.
Absolutely.
So language is very important to me, and
Mm-hmm.
you'll see in the movie that though it's mostly in English, there are sections where there's Spanish being spoken, and other languages as well.
Wonderful.
So it's very important to us to have it into multiple languages. It's
Yes.
still a bit of a work in progress in that regard, as we haven't added in all the languages yet,
Mm-hmm.
but we do have some currently available in addition to English.
Well, I want to stay in touch with you so that we know when it comes out in other languages and stuff. I think this is just fabulous. I think it's incredible. And little did I know that I was going to get to meet you today. And I'm so appreciative of that. As
Thank you,
we
Pastor.
wrap up here, um, would you mind just speaking some words of encouragement to either those who suffer from a mental health challenge or their loved ones? And then, after you speak a word of encouragement, would you mind praying for them?
Yes, yes. I hope you'll understand. I know you'll understand what I'm about to say, but I often cry a lot when I tell my story, the story of my
Sure,
son.
sure.
And sometimes I think, and I've been interviewed where I'm asked a question like the one you just asked, or something related to it, and I find that I can't speak right away, and
Mm,
I become kind of uh, I become so emotional that there are no words, and I in fact weep instead of speaking.
mm-hmm.
So my word of encouragement, I'll try to get it out here,
Sure.
is that just remember you are loved.
Yep, yep.
And I would venture to say that there are people who love you, but in the absence of people who love you, God in heaven loves you. And
Mm-hmm.
whatever you're suffering is not a sign of his rejection or disapproval,
Mm-hmm.
that there are mysteries. We cannot explain everything,
Mm-hmm.
and that suffering is part of human existence. And Christians do suffer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Jesus said, however, be of good cheer. Be of good cheer,
Yes.
for I have overcome the world. This suffering that you are experiencing, if you are at this time, is transitory, it's fleeting, it's temporary, it's not eternal or permanent.
Right.
Look above, not below,
Mm.
and set your eyes on Jesus and trust him and hold on to him, because he will send you help in one
Mm.
form or another. He will send you help and relief.
Mm.
And now I will pray. Lord, I pray that you will bring comfort and encouragement to all those who are listening to this podcast. And God, I just ask that you will bless my new friend, Pastor Brad. Encourage him, help him and his wife and their ministry and all that he sets his hand to do. I pray that you will cause his ministry to expand, oh God, because we know that mental illness is all across the world, and so many people are hurting. And we need advocates, and we need people, we need ambassadors of love and care and concern. So I pray you'll strengthen him, his wife, and their ministry and all that they do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you for being here today with me. I appreciate it so much. And thank you for having the courage to tell the story and to do so in a faith-filled way. I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Well, my friends, this has been another edition of Fresh Hope for Mental Health. I'm going to keep you in touch about this movie for all of you. And I want you to make sure to go to letmehavemyson.com, letmehavemyson.com. And you'll not only see Chris's name, but you're going to see Chris in the movie. And there are trailers with him and his son. And I'd encourage you to check those out also. And my friend, we'd love to hear from you. Email me, Pastor Brad at freshhope.us. Topics you'd like to hear us talk about, questions, input. Maybe you've got something that you'd like to talk to Chris about, and I'll get that information to him as well. And of course, we're on all the social media platforms and all of those kinds of things. We have support groups for people to attend. You can find those. They're online. Many are in person, as well as there's groups in other languages. And we also have books and materials and resources. We have trauma healing groups, all kinds of things. Or maybe you'd like to talk to a hope coach. We do have hope coaches available. And we'd love to hear from you in any way, shape, or form if there's something we can help you with. So, my friends, until next time, may the Lord fill you with his hope, fresh and new daily. I'm Brad Hafes, and this has been another edition of Fresh Hope for Mental Health.
You've been listening to Fresh Hope for Mental Health. If you have an opportunity, please review, share, and subscribe to the Fresh Hope for Mental Health podcast on iTunes or on the service that you use. We encourage you to share our podcast on social media with your friends and family. Previous podcasts of Fresh Hope for Mental Health can be found at freshhopeformentalhealth.com, iHeartRadio, Stitcher Radio, and iTunes. Fresh Hope is one of the leading networks of faith-based peer support groups internationally. For more information about Fresh Hope, go to freshhope.us.